Welcome to How to Hand Feed Your Backyard Squirrels. In this video you will learn an easy technique that will quickly have you enjoying all the thrills and excitement of hand feeding your own backyard squirrels. To teach your squirrels to hand feed, you will first spend about 10 minutes to make a simple dummy. Your squirrels will quickly get used to feeding on peanuts from the dummy. Then all you have to do is change places with the dummy and teach the squirrels to feed out of your hand. Your first step will be to place a lawn chair in your backyard in the spot where you would like to sit to feed your squirrels. You will need some nuts to feed your squirrels. I like to use unshelled peanuts. They are inexpensive and large enough that smaller nut-eating birds won't be able to carry them away. If you have trouble with the blue jays carrying off too many of your peanuts, you might try some larger whole walnuts. To hold the nuts, I like to use an aluminum cake pan, but any type of shallow waterproof container will work. Place your container with a few of the nuts on the chair. Then you will place a board from the ground leading up to the chair. Something about the size of a 1x6, about 4 or 5 feet long, will work well for this. This board will provide a ramp for the squirrels to walk up to get to the nuts in the chair. They can easily jump up into the chair, but once you are sitting in the chair, they will be very reluctant to make that first big leap from the ground into your lap. The ramp will speed up the process by allowing them to slowly check you out as they gradually get closer and closer to the nuts in your hand. And some of your more timid squirrels that might not ever make that first big leap will be easier to coax to your hand using a ramp. Once the squirrels have found the peanuts, just give them several days to get used to feeding out of the chair. While the squirrels are getting used to feeding out of the chair, you can go ahead and construct a simple dummy that will do all the work of getting your squirrels used to your presence in the yard. You will need 2 sets of similar clothes, one set for the dummy to wear and one set for yourself, so that when you change places, you will resemble the dummy. To dress the dummy, any old pair of shoes you might have will work well. An old pair of blue jeans will work well for the lower half of the dummy, and for the upper half a shirt, jacket, or sweatshirt, and some type of hat for the top of the dummy. You will also need 2 pairs of matching gloves, like these inexpensive jersey work gloves. You will need a few feet of twine, rope, or wire. You will need an old broom or mop. You will need some plastic sheeting to stuff the pants and shirt with. You could use some old rags or newspapers, but I like to use plastic because if your dummy should get caught out in the rain and get wet, the plastic won't soak up any water and lose its shape, and your dummy will dry out a lot faster. You can get cheap plastic sheeting at hardware stores and garden centers. And you will need a coat hanger. First, we'll take some twine and tie off the ends of the shirt sleeves and the ends of the pant legs so that we can stuff them with the plastic sheeting. Now we'll cut off some plastic and pack each pant leg. Just cut off enough to kind of fill out each pant leg, and then we'll cut off some to fill in the seat of the pants. One more piece ought to do it. Okay, now that we've got the pants filled up, we'll cut off a piece of twine and put it through the belt loops and pull it tight and tie it on the end. And we'll poke that plastic inside. Now just pull it tight, tie it off. Trim the excess twine. Okay, that completes the lower half of the dummy. Now we'll move on to the upper half. Now we'll cut some plastic and pack the arms of our jacket or shirt. Okay, now you want to button up your shirt or zip up your jacket. Now we'll take our broom handle or mop handle, whichever you have, and run it down through the bottom of the jacket, up through the top and out the bottom. Now we'll take another piece of twine, wrap it around the bottom of the jacket or shirt and tie it off so that it's snug against the broom handle. That way when we fill it with plastic, that'll hold the plastic in. Now we'll cut some plastic and stuff the inside of the jacket. That's a bigger area, so we'll start out with a bigger piece of plastic. Cut a piece and stuff it over on the right side, and we'll cut a piece and stuff it over on the left side of the jacket. Okay, now that the shirt or your jacket is stuck, we'll just insert a coat hanger inside, right down in the shoulders. Pull the coat hanger up on top of the broom, that'll hold it in place. Then we'll just wrap one more piece of twine around the neck of your shirt or jacket, pull it kind of snug. And that'll hold that in place. Now take some twine, rope, or wire and tie a glove to the end of each arm. Now the upper part of the dummy is almost complete. Add the hat and you can now continue on to the next step. The next step will be to add the lower half of the dummy to the chair and let the squirrels have several days to get used to this new addition to the chair. This time the squirrel approaches the chair with some caution, but at this point the lower half of the dummy doesn't quite resemble anything that might give the squirrel much cause for alarm. And soon the squirrel's attention is back on the pan of peanuts. After a few days, when all of your squirrels have had a chance to feed out of the dummy's lap several times, you can move on to the next step, which will be to add the upper half of the dummy to the chair. Adding the upper half of the dummy to the chair has made quite a change, and the squirrels will use a lot more caution this time to check things out before they venture too close to the pan of nuts. Seeing the blue jay take a nut without having problems seems to help motivate the squirrel to try and do the same. After a couple of days, when all of your squirrels have made several trips to feed out of the dummy's lap, you can move on to the next step, which will be to add the hat to the dummy. The hat is just a minor addition and practically goes unnoticed by the squirrels. A single day will probably be enough time for the squirrels to get used to the hat on the dummy. Now you can move on to the next step, which will be for you to trade places with the dummy. Place the dummy somewhere out of sight and set in the chair with your matching clothes. Be as still and quiet as possible and pull the brim of your hat down to help hide your eyes. Try not to move your eyes while the squirrels are looking at you. Try to make this switch while the squirrels are not in the area where they can see you. This is a major change, and the squirrels will be quite cautious at first. The first time the squirrels see you in the chair, they may not get up enough nerve to feed out of the pan. The squirrels in my yard didn't feed out of my lap until the second morning that they saw me in the chair. Between steps, while you aren't in the yard with the squirrels, be sure to place the dummy back in the chair with some peanuts so the squirrels can continue to feed. Once the squirrels have made several trips and are at ease feeding out of the pan in your lap, you can move on to the next step, which will be to teach them to feed from your hand. With your gloves still on, place 3 or 4 peanuts in your hand and place your hand on the edge of the pan. This will force them to take a nut from your hand instead of getting one out of the pan. Or just simply take the other nuts out of the pan. In a short time, they will be used to taking peanuts out of your gloved hand, and you can move on to the next step, which will be to teach them to take a peanut from your bare hand. Again, position your hand on the edge of the pan at the end of the board so they can see the nuts in your hand as they come up the ramp and aren't able to get to the nuts in the pan. They will slowly and carefully check out your bare hand before they chance taking a peanut out of it. Once they are comfortable taking peanuts out of your bare hand, go ahead and move on to the next step, which will be to remove the other glove and your hat. Here's a good example of how not to hold your hand while it's in the pan full of peanuts. Don't hold your hand so that your fingertips are sticking up in the air. Occasionally, a squirrel will grab the end of your finger by mistake, so try to keep the ends of your fingers below the edge of the pan and up against the edge of the pan, so the squirrels can't get a hold of a fingertip. You can see how I dropped my fingers below the edge of the pan the next time the squirrel came after a nut. He didn't bite down hard on the end of my finger, but there's no reason to take a chance, especially when the squirrels are just learning to feed out of your hand and are in a nervous state to begin with. Once your squirrels are comfortable feeding this way, you can move on to the last step, which will be to remove your jacket. Your squirrels will once again be cautious at first, but once they get through this step, you can pretty much wear anything you want while feeding your squirrels. During the few days that it takes to train your squirrels to feed out of your hand, you might want to remove any bird feeders that you have around the yard that the squirrels are able to reach, especially during the final steps when you are in the yard. The squirrels will be tempted to try and get food from these other sources rather than take peanuts out of your hand. Once the squirrels are trained to feed out of your hand, you can hang your bird feeders back up, for after the squirrels get a taste of the nuts that you have to offer, they will much rather eat them than bird seed. If you would like to keep your squirrels feeding out of your hand for a longer period of time, instead of using whole nuts, break your nuts into small pieces. Walnuts are easy to break and are a favorite of the squirrels. After the squirrels are used to seeing you and feeding out of your hand, you can have someone else take your place in the chair, and they too will be able to hand feed your squirrels. My wife Gloria sits on the chair, and it's not long before she is also hand feeding the squirrels. That just about wraps up this video on hand feeding your backyard squirrels. By watching this video and putting to use the quick, easy method described in the video, in just a matter of days, you, your family and friends can be enjoying all the thrills and excitement of hand feeding your own backyard squirrels.